Hi, this is Michelle Goldman with Java 2, Week 2, 1504, and this week we're just making some modifications to last week's project. Two that will be cosmetic and two that will be functional. I wanted to launch my project from last week first, so that way you could take a look um, and you'll be able to see the differences of what I had to do. I did learn a little bit more this week and was able to get some things taken care of and fixed. So in the functionality, we had to be able to uh, pull information from a remote API. Let me turn on the network first. Okay, so pull information from a remote API, which is Google Books for me. I have a default search for Android listed. You would click on an item. It would list everything. I had a problem with the title not showing up. You can put in a search term, and it would actually query from the remote API. So that was all great. That was working. And one of the other things was to be able to write that data to a local file, so it would be cached, so that when there's no network connection, that you would still be able to have that data. Now, was my belief that since it was still pulling everything, it was writing that data to the file, and I was still able to get it. So let me show you what the project for this week looks like, and you'll be able to see that in comparison. And I added a UI element in the detail fragment so that way you can see that data actually writing to that file, and you can see once it's being cleared out, because I also had to add a preference activity to be able to clear the cache, clear the local file. So I added that as well. Okay, so here's the new project. So it loads up, says there's no network connection. I added a button here, so if there is anything stored in the cache, it hasn't been cleared out yet through the settings, then you would still actually be able to pull that. So let's go ahead and get connected, and then I can show you how this works. Okay, so now you can see my panes, my fragments are reversed, changing colors. Click on search. Again, it pulls the default information. My title issue is fixed. And this is the file where it's being written to from that data being pulled from Google Books. I can still do a search, and it hits that remote API and still pulls everything up, which is lovely. I want to go ahead and kill that connection. And now here when I go to settings, I've got just one clickable preference to delete the data. I have a toast that comes up saying all your books have been deleted. So now if I come here and click check cache for books, everything's been removed. It's not stored in there any longer. So those are the changes I had to make, and I feel like I learned quite a bit. I'm still having problems with the serialization of the data. I don't quite understand that, and even though I have it implemented here, I'm using the serial version UID, I still don't quite understand how it is that I need to read and write. So as far as the code, I had to create a preference. So create the settings preference XML with just the clickable preference and my key. So I've got that, and then the preference fragment, which then in the onPreference click is going to look for that key, and then I basically just use that same write to file method in my data class, and then wrote over it with an empty data set, which gives the message no data in cache at this time. And then of course the preference activity, which calls the get fragment manager for that XML. The other part was taking my async task out of my book fragment for last week, so I took that out and put it into another class where I'm actually implementing that via interface. So I've got my interface pass task here. so that way I can pass that back in through the book fragment as far as and here it is as far as the implementation for the load task.